The election is being rigged by corrupt media.
The corrupt media is trying to do everything in their power to stop our movement.
The crooked Hillary Clinton campaign and the mainstream media, which they control and use quite viciously.
It's a rigged system. It's a rigged election. We're going to beat the rigged system. We're going to beat the rigged election.
Today is the best evidence ever that we've seen that our system is absolutely, totally rigged. It's rigged.
First of all, it's rigged. And I'm afraid the election's going to be rigged. I have to be honest.
The whole thing is one big fix. It's one big fix. It's one big ugly lie. It's one big fix.
You know, I've mentioned a few times before that Trump has a way of putting truth in plain sight and spinning it into the biggest lie ever, and the presidential election was definitely one of those times. Special thanks to YouTube channel Brandon Wright for the clip I just showed you, and I love that he chose to end the montage on that last clip, "It's one big fix." So I know I'm like 6 weeks late on this, but the lead up to the election was one giant fake out. Non-stop talk about Hillary's camp rigging the election, the Russians getting involved, all this cyber hacking, and this clown wins no problem. In fact, he walked through the primaries, the election, and the recent electoral vote with no problems whatsoever. So yeah, it's one big fix, it's rigged, but it was scripted for him to win. And you know the shock that so many people were in. The reactionary diatribes online were suffocating, and more than ever, both sides want you to take responsibility for the weight of your vote or non-vote. And it begs the question, who did you vote for? Of course, Donald was telling us all along that it didn't matter. He was telling us that it's one big fix because it's a one-party system. Your vote doesn't count. But it also brings up another point. Who exactly is it that's behind the curtain? And what are they doing? So when I see a picture like this from about a month ago when they shook hands in that photo opportunity, I basically see something like this. And if you remember, I'm talking about the Marvel movies that created that internet meme, Hail Hydra. And I'm not just having a little bit of fun there, we'll get back to that later. There is seriously a fascist element hidden within our government running the show. So it's no surprise that within 10 minutes of logging onto my computer back on November 9th, I was hit by this imagery. So I snagged a few of their promos, which I'll play back in a moment. You'll see how blatant the messaging is. On all three of those promos, you'll see a December 16th date. That's the start of their second season. Beyond that, really pay attention to what these ads are telling us, especially right around Election Day. So these are visions of what's coming in our near future, that authoritarian police state that truthers have warned about for years. And much of the public is becoming aware of that possibility through Trump's election and his association with the alt-right. Personally, I'm surrounded by people who are utterly terrified by this vision. The false awakening that I've talked about all year is taking shape. But below all that, of course, is another truth. This corrupt system already exists, and these images are already true. The fascist element behind our government is merely stepping out into the daylight to reveal itself. So not many spoilers here, but this show is one that mirrors our reality pretty closely. The basic premise involves a generation of people in the early 1960s waking up to the fact that the outcome of World War II was a lie and that their world is a sham. In their world, the Axis powers have somehow won the war and outright control America. So it's in a mirroring of our own reality. And in the upper left corner, I don't know if you've watched the show, but there's a film reel getting passed around. It has footage revealing that their history is a sham and that the war went differently than they were told. And in that scene where this girl's watching it, they really hone in on her eyeballs and the projector lens. And those are two symbols that are hugely important. It's all about projection and perception. It's all about people choosing to see what they want to see in the world around them. And overwhelmingly, people choose to think that they are free when they are not. So if you go to their Facebook page and scroll through it, it's one piece of truth after another in plain sight. And here's one from July 4th. Freedom is in the eye of the beholder, Independence Day. And you got somebody who's completely distracted by the facade of society, all the symbols, the advertisements, essentially the Matrix. And they also use projection to tell us in our own world what's coming. And you remember last year they wrapped an entire train in all this imagery. Now this one was so blatant they had to take it down. But what I'm saying is all this programming has been building for years, and it preps viewers to become more responsive when the real threat shows up in the future. And like I've pointed out before, Trump is a walking projection. The image of Hitler and Hitler's rise to power has come up time and again in relation to the guy, and not by accident. Whether it's the frightening side, the clear mirroring of history, or the humorous side, we've been surrounded by all these swastikas for a long time, and it's a lot like the 1930s Germany where they fell into an artificial bubble of a reality. And no kidding, all this together is really hypnotic. They've been dangling this right in front of us. And again, here's the dustbin of history-like quality to it. This quote right here, our history is being used to project our future. All right, so here's the thumbnail from that video. I just want to point this out. I was pretty much spot on with this visual. It's from a video that I posted back in March, and it's called Donald Trump, Civil War and Secret Societies, America's House of Cards. And I never predicted that Trump would take the White House, but I was paying attention to all the visuals they were sending to us, and it only made sense that I came up with this thumbnail at the end of the video. House of Trump, upside down flag, signaling distress, and it's about a divided nation. 7.5 months later, this is on our newsstands, House of Horrors, upside down flag, Trump seizes divided states of America. And what they're saying is a house divided cannot stand. And ever since doing that video, I've noticed every Nazi story that's popped up in front of me. So when I started this presentation like a month and a half ago, I went back and found the first news story I could think of, which was this one from late September. And I chose it for its symbolic nature, Nazi time capsule unearthed in Poland, because again, we're digging up the past and raising awareness of a very old and very real threat. And as always, it's not just about Nazis, it's about Hitler's rise to power. He's talking to a disillusioned or disempowered populace that wants to return to greatness. You've seen that story 100 times, how they keep mirroring Trump and Hitler. So is it any wonder that this came up more recently with Time Magazine? And I'm not going to add any new thoughts on this one. It just belongs in this presentation. But again, they're back to back. They're mirroring each other. And that's not by accident. And all throughout the campaign, we saw stuff like this so that you wouldn't forget, because it's becoming a very real threat in everyone's minds. Here is Lady Gaga sending mixed signals at a Hillary rally right before the election. So, of course, conservatives attacked it, liberals defended it. Everyone defends their side of the aisle. Now, this one was interesting, this next one. After I saw those advertisements for the man in the high castle, I sat back and was like, just give it 5-10 minutes. I know something else is going to pop up. It's one of those days. 5-10 minutes later, this came up on the screen. So, November 9th, 1938. Today is the 78th anniversary of Kristallnacht, which is kind of a dark joke I would roll my eyes at if I read it in a novel. Again, the lines between fiction and reality are blurring. And Kristallnacht is the night of broken glass, when a bunch of German citizens were incited to go out and smash a bunch of Jewish storefronts. And so is it any wonder that exactly 78 years later to the day, we had similar visions going on in our own backyard? Now, we're not all out there attacking Jews, but it's bringing up that, it's eliciting that same visual that there's an authoritarian power coming out, and it's going to bring out every prejudice that America has right now, setting us against one another. And since the election, a lot of stuff like this has been popping up on my screen. And this is the programming really taking hold on people. So we have this tweet here. Ever wonder what it'd be like to go back in time and help fight Nazis, support civil rights era, resist native genocide? Now's your chance. We got this article right here, white nationalists, alt-right, if you see a Nazi, say Nazi. And she's borrowing from the if you see something, say something campaign. So I scrolled through this article really quick, and of course it didn't take long to see what she was after. Just a snippet. Given the close ties between the alt-right and Trump's cabinet, how is the top story on every front page not some version of neo-Nazis attempting to seize control of American government? Meanwhile, over here, almost on the same day, fighting Nazis is an American tradition. Stop the alt-right. So you can see how people are primed and ready to accept this because they've been seeing it in their entertainment and in their news for years now. So we're going to go to one of those movies right now. And the movie I want to talk about is Captain America: The Winter Soldier. And this is one of those Marvel movies that puts a lot of truth in plain sight, like they all do. But in this movie, the symbol of America, Captain America, finds out that a fascist Nazi element known as Hydra is embedded deep within S.H.I.E.L.D., which is basically the military-industrial complex. So these members of Hydra hide in plain sight and greet each other with the phrase, "Hail Hydra," like I showed you earlier. And you'll remember this is a popular internet meme from a couple of years ago that allowed the sleeping masses to take part in the joke. And that's one of the side effects of putting the truth in plain sight. Done properly, it puts people deeper to sleep. If you try to tell them Nazis or Satanists are embedded deep within our own government right now, they'll just completely laugh at you. They'll remember those memes. It's very easy to make fun of. So this section gets very dense, but I really want to bring up this main point. And it's all about the duality game, where evil latches itself onto something good. And it does that in a fight so that the two get mixed together, and when it's time for evil to take a fall, it pulls something good down with it. And I'm going to make a huge point out of that later. So through compartmentalization, numerous elements of S.H.I.E.L.D. have no idea who's in charge of what, who they're working for at a given time, and all that. Halfway through the movie, Captain America finds a secret military bunker that has yet another secret bunker underneath it. So there's layers upon layers to these organizations. A lot of people don't know who they're really working for. At the bottom, it's discovered that a character named Dr. Zola, who was a scientist for Hydra in World War II, has survived as a computer program. His monologue reveals that Hydra, during World War II, learned that it could not subdue the world with war outright. Humanity always fights back against an overt enemy. Remember that when I talk about the police state and the revolution that's going to be used on us again. We're supposed to fight against this authoritarian state. So Hydra learned that they had to convince the world to give up its freedom gradually, which we know all about. Through Operation Paperclip, Zola was able to come to America, create a parasite organization within S.H.I.E.L.D. Over time, they gradually overtook the joint, sowing seeds of division and chaos throughout the world. This is representative of an internal struggle that apparently happens within our own government, which allowed fascists to get embedded into very high places. More importantly, this is what I really want to get to, they go on to mention that S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra are two sides of the same coin that is going out of currency. And to get rid of the evil that is Hydra, both sides have to go. And that's the Hegelian dialectic that we talk about so much. And credit goes to KJ Osborne for this one. If you look at the Hydra logo, the design hides a couple of 666s in plain sight. And I noticed that if you split the logo down the middle, you'll see that they mirror each other and they oppose one another. And this is evil fighting itself in a controlled battle to advance a larger agenda. So one more movie, James Bond's Spectre, which came out a year later, is pretty much the exact same plot, or at least the exact same premise. In Bond's world, he discovers that there's a secret, shadowy organization that has its tentacles in all forms of government, particularly in the intelligence community. They're getting ready to launch a massive surveillance program to take down all of their enemies and to subdue humanity, and to effectively bring about a new world order. Same thing is happening in Captain America with Project Insight. It's no coincidence then that both of these organizations have just about the same logo, tying into that squid or octopus that the elite love so much. They have their tentacles in almost everything, and they're enveloping the world with it. So this was 2014, this is 2015. In 2013, I don't know if you know this or not, but the NSA and NASA announced that they launched a satellite called Enroll 39. And here's the catchphrase for the logo they came up with. Nothing is beyond our reach, and it has the squid with its tentacles all over the globe. And it just happened to coincide with the time that Edward Snowden defected and released all that information. And I just want to point out real quick here, this is not how you keep a secret. This is how you make an announcement. So again, this is them coming out in the open and waving hello, saying, we exist. This is why they're being cartoonishly sinister in their approach here. We know about these surveillance programs and all this other stuff because we're supposed to. So why is it? Why are they putting themselves out in the open? And the concept is called externalization of the hierarchy. And you've heard me say time and again that the system is exposing its own corruption. This is entirely what I'm talking about. I just relabeled this concept. And why they're doing it, spiritually they have to tell us what they're up to, which is all well and good, but they're using it to reach a far greater end. And that's what I want to get to. They're going to use it to latch anything that's good about this world to something evil and flush it down the toilet. So in that scene I told you about earlier with Dr. Zola, he mentions in passing that if you cut one head off of the Hydra, one or two grow back in its place. He's referring to the ritualistic beheading of the Hydra. And to keep it really short, the elite control both sides of a given conflict to create a predetermined outcome. Usually someone needs to take the fall. Whoever's involved in the fight or knows about it needs to see a bad guy lose the fight. As such, one of the many heads of the Hydra is beheaded so everyone can have closure. And in the Captain America example, it's Hydra losing the fight, pulling S.H.I.E.L.D. down with it. Meanwhile, evil shapeshifts into a new form, replicates the same duality program all over again, advancing numerous agendas. Kudos to whoever came up with this spiral graphic right here. It's exactly what I had pictured in my mind when I went looking for it. So if you got anyone in your life who won't believe in something like that, it just sounds too stupid, it's right out of the movies, it would never happen. A lot of this stuff is public information. I'm not going to go into depth about Operation Paperclip. If they know those movies, tell them to go look up Reinhard Gehlen. He is everything I just talked about. One person surrounded himself with Nazi war criminals, created an entire intelligence apparatus that is still in effect today in Europe. So I want to end on this point, which is that most truthers out there seem to think that the fascist police state will be the new world order, when in fact it's a means to an end. If you've been awake for even 6 months, you know the basic premise of the revolution. The global elite are losing control and they don't like it, and the more truth that comes out about them, the more they'll need to clamp down on our rights and subdue us by force, taking us into global war and financial collapse. That's this section over here. The call for revolution is telling us that if we rise up and fight them, we can stop them. But if you look at their murals at the Denver International Airport, you can see that they know all about this awakening. They want it to happen. And you can see war personified coming in and slicing through society, killing peace, and later on, the world has conquered it and united under the banner of peace. So keeping it really simple, we're going to be put through a really dark phase. Having lost control, evil will come right out in the open and bare its fangs at humanity. They are forcing themselves out in the open where corruption can be seen. Now, keep in mind the union of opposites, where every truth gets paired with a lie and everything good is paired with something evil. The bigger and darker they go, the more truth they can misrepresent in the worst way possible. And this is why they're externalizing an overtly corrupt hierarchy. It has served its purpose and it needs to auto-destruct to bring in the new age. Like I said earlier, people need someone to resist and they need to see the bad guys take a dive. By the time that happens, they'll take down our current society with them and everything that was good about it. This is ritually beheading the Hydra. And it's all meant to prep survivors to accept peace at any cost and to bring about a false spiritual awakening. Will it be this simple? No. On the surface, it'll be chaotic and fragmented as possible. But you can see how we're being pitted against one another in this fight. Many people on the right think they're resisting the globalist agenda, and many people on the left think they're about to resist a fascist regime, at least here in America. Unfortunately, both sides are controlled by the same invisible powers. And this is why a very potent question is resurfacing. Which side of history will you choose to be on? It's what you call a loaded question. We're frequently told to take sides in every argument because whichever side you're on, the establishment has you in their narrative. That's the duality trap playing out endlessly. The only true fight is whether or not you stand with Jesus Christ, Yeshua, and stay true to the scripture. Now, I personally believe Jesus will be misrepresented in the worst way possible during this time. That's why he warned us that all nations will eventually hate us for his namesake by the end. And I point you to Matthew chapter 24, verses 9 through 11 for that. And I have more thoughts on this, but they're going to have to wait for another time. If you like this video, please share it or comment below. If you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel. Thank you for listening. I'll catch you next time.